education changed from the 1980s to 2013?
Wow, that's a big question. How has it changed from the 1980s? Oh my goodness gracious. Well, I've only been in education since the 1990s, so the 1980s are before my time. I was in college myself in the 1980s, but I think what I can see, what I can tell is become more student-centered. I mean, what we're trying to do now is to really find out what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and we're trying to work with each individual student more than just saying working with a whole class. We try to make the instruction fit each single student in the school system. And that's how I see it as far as how it affects students. Unfortunately, you know, the way legislators and the people who make the laws, they keep changing the laws. You know, we never seem to stick with one thing for very long. So with our new curriculum, which is called the Common Core, I think in the end that's going to be a good thing, because let's say you live in California or Oregon or Massachusetts, but you move and you come to North Carolina, then the curriculum has got the same core being part of it. So I think that's going to help students try to keep up with what they need to learn, and it's going to help educators, teachers know where you are in your education and what you need to focus on. And it's going to be very similar to what you were learning in another state. It's not going to be completely different like sometimes it was in the past. So I think that's a good thing. How else has it changed? Well, we have different schedules now. I mean, not only do we have a traditional schedule for students, what we're on, but a lot of schools have year-round schedules now, where they go to school for 12 weeks and then they have off a few weeks. So they have breaks all throughout the year rather than one big long summer. So schedules have changed a little bit to give people more options, to give parents and teachers and students more choices in education. Something I can think of. I'm sure there's lots more, but...
How is the education with the electronics today more advanced?
Oh, okay. Well, that goes back to what we were just saying, how it's more, we're trying to keep students engaged. We want students to be actively learning all the time at school. And I really believe the technology aspect, that is a big change. How from the 80s, we didn't have computers and things like that, and now we do. So that's a huge change. And starting in January at this school system, and many other schools around the country already have this, every single student's going to have their own electronic device. It could be a Chromebook like you guys are working with. It might be a laptop. It might be an iPad. But again, it's trying to individualize that learning, trying to play up your strengths, you know, work with your strengths and build up your weaknesses to make them a little bit stronger. So I definitely think technology helps keep students more engaged. I think it helps them work on their own education. It gives you more responsibility. We're giving students more responsibility for learning. It's not just teachers standing up there saying, here's the information, you take it and do what you can with it. This way, we're like giving you the tools, and we're kind of just standing back and giving you the information, the tools you need, but then you get to take it and run with it and create things with it that we were not able to do in the past. Did you come for conferences with your teacher recently? Well, that's different. Student-led conferences. So it's the students telling their parents what they've been learning, rather than the teacher leading that conference and talking to your parents. So it's actually students are now leading some of those, doing some of those things that used to be left up to teachers. So I think it's more of I guess it's more of a team, teachers and students working together as a team rather than kids and teacher being in the front of the classroom lecturing all day long like we used to do it. That used to be more how we did it. I think we do it more hands-on for the students now, I think.
How do the electronics in the American schools now help students better?
Well, I think we probably just answered that question. I think it helps you because it can be that your education can be tied to that computer, to that device, based upon what your needs are. So it's more individualized. We can have each student learn more and build up their weaknesses and go with those strengths a little bit, I think, a little bit easier and a more engaging, more interesting way. You know, students today are very much all about the digital age. You guys are born knowing how to use technology. People like me, I'm still learning, you know, how they work. And I mean, I have little kids show me how to do things on my phone and iPad that I had no idea. So again, I think students are leading the way with these devices, electronic devices.
What electronics have helped schools become more advanced?
How has it helped them become more advanced?
What electronics have we used?
Oh, okay. Well, I think the very first thing we started with was Apple computers, and that probably got started either back in the 80s or I think it was in the 80s that we started out with the Apple computers. And then, of course, we've moved on to more advanced computers, mostly desktop computers. But now today, we're moving to like something that's portable, something that you don't just leave on a desk and you have to go visit that particular electronic device. Now we're moving to where you like Chromebooks. Now, I know they're all in your classroom right now, but you get to hold them and have them on your desk, put them up. But when every student gets one of those, you will take it wherever you go. So it's more portable. So you can actually take what you're learning and take it with you and do your work wherever you are. You don't necessarily have to be in a classroom in order to be learning or in order to be doing your assignments.
Are the advanced technologies today in school?
I think so. I believe that technology, again, like the Chromebooks that you guys have, I think it helps make the teacher more effective. She's able to, like I say, if we have our students engaged, then I think that's helping that teacher because she can see immediately through quick assessments. She can understand quickly what you understood or what you got out of that lesson or what you need to get out of that lesson if you need more help. So I think it is going to help teachers. It's a learning curve. It's harder for me as an adult to learn how to use these devices. But, you know, I also think that we, teachers, are learning sometimes from our students. So I think it's kind of a team thing. You guys are teaching us ways to do things, but the teacher also is learning new ways to get information to you so that you know how you can incorporate that information into your education, giving you more responsibility. So I guess it's a shared activity. So.
What kinds of technology did you have when you were
Nothing. Let me think. What was our technology? Our technology was probably audio cassettes where you could listen to stories with headphones. That's one thing I remember. I remember abacus. We didn't have calculators when I was in school. We used an abacus in order to help us, which is an ancient tool that comes from thousands of years ago, but we still used it when I was in school. We did not have computers. The first time I ever used a computer in school was probably when I was in college, and the reason I used the computer was to look for books in the library. That's probably the first time that I used technology, and it was in college. And I was in college, I was a late bloomer, so I didn't go to college until late 70s, early 80s, but did that. And then looking up information that you needed on like online magazines or online databases. They had those in the library, so all the computers we used were in the library. We didn't have them in the classrooms or anything like that. We didn't have labs when I was in school. That is kind of a new thing.
Have you seen any improvement in the new technology today?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's quicker, it's portable, more reliable. There's just about, you can find out something about, you do have to be careful about misinformation though, especially on the internet, because there's so much out there, and because anybody can put information out there. I think we have to teach our students how to be careful that we're using information that's reliable. So it's important for students to learn. Like one time I had a student who thought that octopuses lived in trees. And that was an experiment that some people did on the internet. If we put out this misinformation, how many students, how many kids are actually going to believe it? So that goes back to, you can't believe every single thing you read. Just see it when you have to go find ways to confirm that information or to verify that information. So you just can't take it just because it's there on the internet. You can't say, oh, this is true. You have to say, oh, I need to go find other places to verify that octopuses really do live in trees. So that's just an example of misinformation, and I had some fifth graders trying to, convince me that octopuses lived in trees, and I had to show them how we had to go get more information and show them that in fact wasn't true. So, I guess so.
What are the standard subjects in art and rec?
At this time, softball players, please report to the gym.
We have to learn reading.
Softball
Reading has
players,
to be number
please
one
report to the gym.
because reading helps with every single other subject. So if you are a strong reader, if you continue to grow your vocabulary, there's nothing that you will not be able to understand. So having a huge vocabulary, and one way to get that is by reading all the time. You have to have math. Because you don't want to be cheated in the world. You want to make sure that when you go to the store that you're getting back the right change, and when you go shopping, you want to make sure that you have your budget and you're following your budget. So I think absolutely reading and math. But science is so important too, because science is everywhere. It's all in our world. And then social studies or history. I believe that those four are probably, the basics. And then anything that you go beyond that, how to make gaming systems or how to use computers is great. But I don't think you can do any of that stuff until you've got those four basic things. And luckily, in the real world, I found that you don't have to be great in all subjects. But in school, in order to be a successful student, you have to pretty much you have to do well in all of your subjects so that you can be as successful as you can be and move on with your life.
Has education changed very much since you were in school?
Some days it seems like yes, and that's mainly because of the technology and the way that we differentiate. I don't think we did that before. When I was in school, everybody got the same information. It didn't matter if you had a learning disability or if I had a learning disability. It wasn't really addressed. But today we really do try to take all different kinds of students, whether they're super smart or kids who need special help or have challenges. How do we help each single one of our students be as successful as they possibly can be? I think that differentiation and technology are probably and then maybe the schedule. Those are the three biggest changes that I've seen in education since I was in elementary school or in school. I guess I graduated from high school in 1972, so didn't have any technology. I don't remember them doing differentiation, and there certainly was never more than one schedule. So I guess those would be the three main differences that I can see.
What was education like when you were in school? How did you learn?
Well, most of my learning was from reading. I loved reading, though. That's as soon as I didn't learn to read until I was in first grade, but I still remember it like it was yesterday. The day I started reading on my own, it was like my entire world opened up, and I knew that I was going to have a fabulous life. And my father always said, once you learn to read, we could never tell you anything, because I would just say, well, I'm going to go learn about it on my own. My parents could tell me, but then I would want to go find other sources of information so that I could read about it. But reading was definitely my strength. I always struggled in math. I didn't really understand math very much. When I was in high school, I really wasn't thinking about going to college. nobody in my family had ever gone to college before, and it wasn't anything I really understood or knew about. And so I took secretarial courses, like I learned to type on an old manual typewriter. I learned to take shorthand. So I took home economics. I learned how to work in a home. I learned how to work in an office. But then when I graduated from high school and I started working out in the real world, I decided, hey, I think I want to go to college. So I went back and started visiting local colleges to see what could I do in order to get back into school, and absolutely fell in love with college. There's a lot of writing in college. You do a lot of writing too in high school, but you need that if you're going to college because they make you write a ton of papers when you are in college. So it's a really good thing that you're getting, this type of assignment right now because it's just it's just a little piece of what you're going to need, as a student. And today we believe that everybody deserves the right to go to college. Even if you get into a profession where you don't need a college degree, it's a good thing because you're going to be exposed to ideas and information in a college setting that you will never necessarily get in the real world. And vice versa, you're going to get experience and information in the real world, that's going to go beyond your college experience. So they're both, very, very valuable. You want to try to get as many experiences in, meet as many new people, expand your mind as you expand your world. So.
That's it.
All right, well, you're welcome. Thank you so much. I hope I didn't sound too crazy.